Have you ever watched a professional team play football and wondered how that is done? How do they organise to play football in that way? Do you have a team of your own and you would like your team to play more like they play? Or you want a coach education pathway and some days you think to yourself, I am now more confused than I ever was. Do you need some help with understanding those sessions you do on that coach education pathway and how those sessions can be coached more effectively and easily? Football can seem like an enormous jigsaw and it's very difficult to put it together. And the reason is that while it is a great big jigsaw made up of thousands of pieces represented by all the drills and phases of play and rondos and all the little exercises that you come across continuously, mostly you're trying to put that jigsaw together without the big picture that that very jigsaw represents. And that's what this is all about. This is the resource that you have been looking for. In these videos we show how ideally the attacking phase, the defending phase and the transition phase of football is played, and more importantly how it's coached. Now, we are creating space as a team by getting that width and that depth. The very next thing we would want to look at in the attacking phase would be creating space as individual players. And to begin with, that would simply mean, because this ball is being pressed, of course, we want to now go and find spaces to play in that will support the player on the ball and make it easier for him to make good decisions about what the next pass should be. Midfield pass. There's lots of space in front of me and I want to exploit that space, so I'm going to bring the ball forward. Now, he's going to do that for several reasons. One is, he may want to create an overloaded midfield, but he also wants to exploit this space in front of him because he knows that as he brings that ball forward into that space, at some point the defending player opposite has to shift himself and come and close that ball down. They're not going to let you walk all the way to the goal and score. They have to come and close it down at some point. And when this defending player comes to close down that ball, eventually, little space is made in behind. So, where is that? The attacking phase of the game is not at all difficult to coach. If it's looked at in the right way, it becomes quite simple, I think. I hope I'm not eating those words now in 10 minutes. So you want, when you're trying to exploit space quickly, where you can, to avoid playing the player's feet. If there's spaces it can be played into to exploit that space quicker, that would be the thing to do. So you're asking the player, could you, maybe, if the gap between these defenders is big enough that you know it's not going to be intercepted, what about put that ball in there, ball arrives, player arrives, and the space is exploited much more efficiently and much quicker. Another point you would look out for in a session like create and exploit space, and as I say, it would happen anywhere on the pitch. It could be playing to a player's feet here, and you're saying, if there's a space that you can exploit, can you put the ball into it and let the player then arrive at it? Now, this would be an opportunity here to show how points and sessions overlap again and again. Just going back to the start, irrespective of what the topic of the session is, at the very start you're always getting your width, your depth, your quality and selection of pass and your players moving to create space, establish possession and then get on with the topic. But let's say tonight we were working on penetrating passes rather than creating and exploiting space. Exact same point. Except on the night when we're talking about penetrating passes, and that's our topic, that's what we will be calling that. So you can see now, we're beginning to see how the coaching points overlap again and again, and we'll see that more as we go through this. So we're working something that's not realistic, didn't really happen on the pitch, but they're going in there and they're kind of stretching it a little bit to get a point across. If you really want to get a point across, coach what's good about the game, because remember, players will either do what it is you want them to do or they won't do it, and you can coach it either way. For example, going right back to the beginning of the session, might be worth just taking a little look at this. And you're starting off your session and you want to get your width, depth, good quality and selection pass, all that. And the fullbacks here are giving you absolutely perfect width every time it's back here with the goalkeeper. And as a coach, somebody might be standing on the sideline thinking, I want to go in and coach width, but I can't because these guys are giving me perfect width. I'm waiting for at least one of them to do it wrong so I can step in and explain what it is I'm looking for. If they're doing it right, go in and coach that. Go in and tell them what a great job they're doing and why that is so good and what the angle and distance is all about, and making sure that the defenders on the opposite team hear everything that's going on and bring that into their game as well if it's not. Because sometimes, however good you are at doing the high press, you will need something to pull your chestnuts out of the fire, and this will be it. What are we looking for? Well, first thing to realise is this is not going to go on for very long. Once they get the ball in and around the penalty area, usually in football that's going to last 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds. 5 seconds in fact would seem like an eternity. So you're asking players to concentrate on the things they have to do for a matter of seconds. And what are those things? Well, of course there will be marking and so on. And I'm going to deal, when we're done here, with tracking runs, recovery runs and marking. But I'm going to do it right here with fewer players in a bigger space, just to make it more clearly understood and easier to follow. But for right now, what I would say is you're certainly putting pressure, trying to win that ball and bring it back out with a few short passes if possible. If not, we'll show you how to do it differently in a sec. You are marking some players touch tight, no doubt. You are certainly aware of where the opponents are and knowing that if they receive the ball you can close it down, you're close enough. But what I'm going to deal with most specifically in here is this ball watching. Something that goes on at all levels of the game, even in the professional game they're guilty of it. Now, as I say, it's the same. If it's just general defending, it's exactly the same thing. But we're emphasising that pressure. Now, and there would be the point you'd be making up to there. Now, when you get to that and you're happy that the team are giving you that pressure and cover, extra cover balance, that the defence is moving up to make it all nice and tight in contact, and your goalkeeper is aware of what's going on and he's closing down this space, and your players are marking correctly at the back and understand the concept of marking when you're far away from the ball, you can now get down into a little more of the finer detail when it comes to defending, let's call it. Now, we're not doing any drills as such in these videos, so we're not going to be doing anything in defending like 1v1, 2v1, 1v2, 2v2, 3v3. You'll find any amount of those drills in all sorts of places. We just want to look at the bigger picture, as I say. But let's look at what it is you're looking for in a coaching session like this that's game related, in a match that you want to spot and coach the players to make sure that they're aware to do it. Well, let's start. But you can imagine now, as we make a reaction to losing that ball, the opposition are reacting to winning it. So their players will be trying to move away from ours. And what we are doing is, as I said, filling those spaces, but also as play develops, we are trying to cover all those players who can affect the game. In other words, the players who might receive the ball, so that when we get our players into place, we can close down passes quickly like this. Now, that's just one example of how you would react to losing the ball. And of course, our goalkeeper will be communicating all this to players. He'll become very important here because at this point, he's a little afraid that his goal is threatened and he definitely does not want to concede goals. He as anxiously wants not to concede a goal in a football match as your front players are anxious to score goals. So he will be frantically telling players what to do and making sure we tighten up and so on. Now, let's have a look at how that might work out a little different.